Hi everyone. This is going to be a video going over the third of the urinalysis case studies, and that is going to be Dolly. Dolly is a 55-year-old woman that comes in and says that she was recovering from a strep infection from 2 weeks prior, and she's noticed that her hands and feet are starting to swell. So you do a urinalysis, and from the urinalysis, you're going to find the presence of proteins. Also, you might notice a change in the color. The color might be brownish, and that brown is going to indicate the presence of blood in the urine. So you could also have possible hematuria from the urinalysis results. So that doesn't seem to be kind of explaining what's going on with her hands and feet. And that also doesn't seem to immediately explain why you would want to know that she had a strep infection 2 weeks ago. But here's what's going on. Okay, and this is going to tie into our recent study of the immune system too. When you have an infection, one of the ways that you fight the infection is with antibodies. And we know that antibodies are going to be released, and what they're going to do is attach to a particular foreign antigen and neutralize it until it can get destroyed, until it can be removed from the body. So you have these antigen-antibody complexes that are forming. Okay, so she had strep throat, but within her blood, she had these antigen-antibody complexes that were forming. And then these complexes can actually get stuck in areas of capillaries because the capillaries are so small. So in this case, these antigen-antibody complexes were getting stuck at the capillary bed at the start of the nephrons, the glomerulus. So when you have these that actually get stuck there, what's going to happen is it's going to cause inflammation in that area. So you are going to get damage. So because of the strep infection and the production of these antigen-antibody complexes in the blood, then finding their way to the glomerulus and getting stuck, it caused inflammation at the glomerulus, which damaged it. So you've got a glomerulus now that is injured. So I'm going to kind of represent that like so. When the glomerulus is injured, that means that things could be leaking out of the glomerulus that normally would not, because of course also inflammatory response, not only is it going to cause some tissue damage or potential tissue damage, but it can also cause increased permeability, right, of capillaries. So the glomerulus is going to be leakier. It's going to be more permeable than it usually is. Now, things that normally don't get filtered out at the glomerulus are going to include red blood cells and also proteins, plasma proteins. So now those plasma proteins, and primarily albumin would be who we're talking about. So that's why I wrote over here, you found proteins, but we can assume that it's mainly going to be albumin, so albuminuria. That albumin is going to travel out of the glomerulus, and it is then going to wind up being present in the urine. Now, how does this then relate to her hands and her feet? Well, this takes us back to exam 1 material and understanding the role of albumin and other plasma proteins aside from transport. When we're thinking about a capillary, remember this image from lecture? When we're thinking about a capillary, we have filtration and reabsorption happening at the capillaries all through the body. Filtration is going to be driven by the hydrostatic pressure, so the blood pressure. And we're going to be filtering out around 20 liters a day normally. Then we're going to reabsorb around 17 liters a day back into the capillaries, and the driving force for this is going to be colloid osmotic pressure. The colloid portion is referring to proteins, and albumin is the principal protein in the plasma that is going to help drive reabsorption. But in the case of Dolly, she's losing albumin. She's losing it in the urine. That means that this colloid osmotic pressure is going to be lower. That means that she's going to have less reabsorption, right? So instead of the normal 17 liters a day, that's going to go down. So if you're filtering out the same amount, but you're not reabsorbing as much, that fluid is winding up staying in the tissues, right? And what is our term for that? Edema. So this is why a strep infection could actually affect your kidneys, and then why that effect on the kidneys could actually wind up causing her hands and her feet to swell.